What's going on, traders? Brandon here. It's Sunday, just hanging out, taking a little break here on the computer, trying to get some market psychology. I'm going over some of your Discord questions, getting back to you guys here. And I was hit up in a message on Discord by one of our elite members, Jeremy. He had a question regarding OSTK, and it's something that we did trade on Friday. We had a pretty healthy scalp on, and it was heavy in volume, heavy on catalyst. So let's just start. He had a question about a swing position. If you wanted to start a swing position in OSTK, how would he take a limited risk entry? And he wants a little bit of breakdown. Well, I'm just going to jump ahead of the crew since this is going to be on our #1 watch list coming into Monday tomorrow morning. One of the top three for sure, just because catalyst driven and sympathy moves from the crypto. So I just want to talk about it a little bit and help everybody kind of get a feel for what we're going to be looking for on Monday, okay? So the ticker is OSTK. This is Overstock.com. Now, in the news piece, if we jump to, I'm going to go to our news exchange here real quick. We have the trade exchange here. We'll go to our history, and I want to show you the news piece that came up on OSTK. It was a crypto, back on track, what's going on in blockchain. Right here, 1034, so this was the hit piece right here on OSTK, and it was Overstock's exit from retail is getting back on track. It wants to go all in on blockchain technology, okay? Just to, we played the news catalyst on this intraday. It was right around here. I think I played like a small bump here, held through pullback, got in on a little ramp here, got out, nice little scalp for the day. But let's break down a little bit further into this. Now, something about Overstock.com, it is one of the first major retailers to accept crypto periods. I don't know if the big crypto boom a while back from Bitcoin, Overstock.com was one of the first ones accepting crypto, which was kind of neat. So, and they've always been like that. So the crash of Bitcoin and everything else didn't really help Overstock.com. Oh, excuse me. At the whole shot, as you can see, because that hype kind of wore off. Well, we are coming off of all-time lows, and let's just talk a little bit about technical, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the sympathy move here. So the sympathy is going to come from Bitcoin's price in general. Right now, as I take a peek at it right now, as cryptocurrency is on the rise, and we got that little hit piece from CNN with the catalyst, so it's heavy catalyst driven, and we do have, I just want to bring this up real quick, we're at 11,000, so I figured once this broke 10K, it was going to magnet to 15 quite fast, and it's getting pretty crazy here, even on Sunday. We're up 3.7%, it's at 11,000. 18 as we speak right now, 11,021 and rising. So once it held a break over 10K and rising, that's big. Now Libra's rival again is going to shake a little bit of the news, as in just kind of get it cooking. I don't think it's going to rival Bitcoin like or anything like that. Libra coin, I think there's going to be a place for it in Bitcoin, but there's going to be some sympathy, just catalyst, just from pure using the terminology, vocabulary of crypto and blockchain and et cetera, et cetera. It's just like the crypto era. If you guys were trading back then, you would have remembered something like Riot, where they would just randomly throw the name blockchain into their company or just mention it, and it would do this, right? And Riot should be getting sympathy moves as well. You can see it higher low kind of breaking back up as well as Bitcoin started rising. This is garbage. Don't trade it. I'm just saying Riot blockchain incorporated. You just seen a bunch of companies trying to hustle consumers by putting in blockchain and crypto and blah, blah, blah into their little demographic of companies like summary, right? So but with that being said, on OSTK, let's get to the technical side of OSTK. Now, I think we could have a potential run here. I don't think this is going to be a long-term big swing trade, blah, blah, blah. I think this is going to be a little bit of maybe a couple-day mover. I could be wrong. This could get blown out of the water over the 200 EMA, but I feel like this is just going to be a Monday, Tuesday possible runner, playing some intradays here. Now, let's get into some of the basic systems we use in ELITES to identify a couple things here. First things first, from the 4 hours chart, we're going to grab the drawing here. We're going to grab a high, and then we're just going to slice through a lower high because I want to see where. So you have a couple here. This one's a little sharp. That's too close. I want to extend it to one of the guaranteed lower highs, and this little pop right here into a lower high into the 100-day. I'm going to start focusing on that. That catches my eye right away because this is its first little break up, right? Like we respected the 50 the whole time, not even tapping at this little guy right here. We shot up to the 100 before a big fail. Anticipation and earnings maybe a little bit there on ER as well, and after the fact. So this higher low is going to be the one you're going to want to grab out of all the other ones. This one just has a prominent, look to it. So as we're going to grab our little algo line, we're going to see coming into this base now that we did have a technical reversal set up here. The next thing we usually do is we try to find a base support. Now this last wick right here coming into the 940 area would be a good start. So we're going to drop a support line there near the 940s. And we're just going to look how well it held up at those levels. And now you see where the reversal algo comes into play here. How well it held that 940s area. Now a couple times it broke under a little bit, but it bought back up relatively quick in this last higher low before it broke out of the trend and gave you confirmation. There's a couple things going on right here leading up into this breakout, which if you were just happen to come across this chart and see potential reversals on this, you might have got this a day or two ahead of time. You have the 90 EMA crossing the 50. You have the gap closing here in 50 and 100. We're getting real tight. They're getting real nice now. The 90 EMA's cross on both of these now getting very bullish here. So we do have the algo reversal trend on the 4-hour. We have a very good support near that mid $9 range that got defended. Now we have a news catalyst driving us into a big spike, and now we also have it trading at 7x volume of what it used to. Okay, huge increase in volume trading. So what do we do, right? Where's the target? So the first time this hit, well, let's go back to the 4 because I want to pay attention to the 100 here a little bit. Let's go break down a little bit more on the 4-hour here. The last few times we've gotten to the 100 EMA direction here on the chart, you can see back here just on the 180. We'll just use that for now. We're not going to go back too much farther than that, but how many times it's interacted with that 100 and how many times it's closed above that 100 for a run. So now looking at our candles here on the 4-hour, we have a couple really strong closes above the 100. There wasn't any pullbacks quite yet, right? That hasn't happened in the last 180-day chart. There's only one other instance where it got above the 100 EMA in this consolidation range, and we'll talk about that right now. So as it came up and started slamming into this 100 EMA, it started pulling back. It never really recovered it, right? The only time it did is had a higher low squeeze, and it had a really good short squeeze set up here as it broke above the 100 here. We had a couple closes on the 4-hour, started ramping up. You had an insane setup of higher lows off of lows here. So if you were just draw a regular trend line here and you were following that, you could easily see all these higher lows in this direction. So had a lot of higher lows stacking up, started recovering trends, squeezed out shorts over highs here, and just slammed upward. That's the last time it really made it over the 100 and the 200 at the same time. And it had some progressive moves. Now, you notice when it did this, though, it had those, it's up, and then it just kind of got shaky, came back down, got that 250 tap, up, squeezed up, came back down, rode that 50. So a lot of these push-up moves do have relaxes afterwards, okay? And you can see the static range that it had here. Even every couple days, you could see lows as 16 and highs as 23. So it wasn't progressive. It would squeeze in a big channel, and it was lots of pullbacks, squeezed back up, lots of shorts trying to chase down. They got squeezed off the 200 EMA. Well, now we're coming into the next kind of setup that is going to look similar to this in the current day, right? And so coming into Monday. So let's talk about a couple different things that we're looking at here. I said the $12 range is what you should look for at the end of the day here for that pop. I got to 12.09. I picked 12 just because it was just under the 200 EMA. And I figured, obviously, the first attempt and the first tag at the first 200 EMA, usually a pretty good pullback zone, and see how it higher lows off that. Now, just taking a peek over to the left here, we clearly have a split on our 4-hour chart. So we're going to mark that off and start some more technical analysis here. And we didn't quite get up to that split yet. That squeeze move right there. I mean, there's going to be lots of shorts. They're probably going to get busted out of the positions coming into this week, but I just don't want it to be one of those pop up and just slam down. So we're going to kind of be relatively careful with this. So we're going to move to the daily chart now. And what we're going to do for support is, resistance rather. We're going to look for a target. Now, Jeremy had mentioned 16, and I do agree with 16 because we do have this little gap. This gap was pushed, filled down. Let me get a little closer here so you guys can see it. Oh, my goodness. In regular fashion, I overzoom the normal. So on the daily chart here, back here, 1224, 1225 now, or is it 1 or 12? 124, 125. So these two end of January candles here, we had pushed up. So we got the opening price here, gapped up, filled, found support on a common gap, went back up, recovered, created higher lows from there, and started a nice little trend, okay? This is in that $16 range right here, that gap. So this is the first leading gap with a couple nice resistance tops marking very close to it. That's going to interact with that $16 price target. Now, I like 16 because it's the top of this candle, and this is the lower end of that gap. So I'm gonna utilize 16. Just as Jeremy had pointed out, because I'm in big agreement with that level. We had it as a major resistance, gapped over, found major support, had real trouble holding it, came back up, gave you two confirmations of strength using a floating doji, opened up, came up, rejected, had a beautiful trend down. 16, I think, is an ample target. I don't think this is going to end up being a swing trade. I think it's going to be real violent, real quick, because the 4 hour now. I'm going to take a peek here. This is my idea going into it now for Monday. We'll have to see what it does. Depending on market gap up, gap down, the futures don't open for another hour or so. I'll be on the computer waiting for that as well. Breaking down, reading, planning for next week here. But my anticipation of this is shorts are most likely going to panic, and it'll most likely happen somewhere around this split level, that 12 to 12.25 range. Now, we already hit 12 and a couple cents here, right, as it peaked back up, and it created a real big base at that 11.10, right? Higher lows off the 200 EMA intraday we always use. And what's interesting is the $11 only because it's a prior candle. Now, this is a huge setup. You guys know me for using prior day candles all the time. If this was the candle chart here, this is our prior from Thursday. We're just going to mark that off, change that to our support color, extend it to the left. We have some decent interaction there. Topped here, had some decent resistance, 3 days worth. Had a little bit of a over under there, almost a split. Can't call that a split, but it hasn't really had any other interactions with this low because we're coming off of new lows, right? So again, we're only going to be using the prior day candles here because that's pretty much all we have. We're coming off of lows, and we just got to use what we got from this little consolidation pop here. Consolidated at lows, popped up into and used that blue line as resistance, and now it's snapped over that with the parabolic news piece, or not parabolic, but the catalyst, I should say, is the wrong word there, news piece. So ultimately, I want to see that $11 hold because it's a prior level on the daily. So this candle here that popped into 10.95 on the prior daily candle, we'll call it $11 if you want. That's a nice whole number. So that's what we want to see to hold. So we have our range here. We have the split for resistance. We have the outstanding support marked off with the prior candle. And now we have this little bit of a $1.25 range that OSTK could trade in. Now, you see it was kind of picking up there after hours at the end, but we do have a ton of resistance where, well, right under 12, that $12 target. The 200 EMA is looming on the 4 hour right above that. So now we have to pick an over under. So ultimately, when this opens up, best case scenario is this stays flat and it just acquires higher lows all the way through pre-market off of these, right? So it opens up here and it would not gap up, hopefully doesn't do the move in pre-market here and just kind of stay stagnant, creating higher lows all pre-market. And continuing on. So that's what we'd like to see, because then we can use this $12 prior high, 1209 rather, as a major resistance, because this is going to be our previous day. Friday's candle is going to be our big resistance, and this will be charted out on our 709 code, of course. So we're going to have this 1209 as our dashed orange resistance line in pre-market. We'll have to see where it opens up, but this is the prior day highs. So best case scenario, I'd like to see this wedge ultimately the 11 holds, even if it looks weak and comes down here and starts messing around right here at the 11, because that's that Thursday's high candle. That's going to be our support. So we need it to hold above 11, and if it does higher lows through pre-market and wants to run after that 12, great. I think because of the split right here, there's going to be a lot of shorts freaking out, so it's going to go really quickly above. If it breaks over these highs, it's just going to go 1209 ramp. It'll be like 1209, 1220, hit 1225, and it's just going to rocket right off of the split, because I think shorts and algos are going to look at this big old cut right here as a big old over under. This was a huge support on the ER and is a huge resistance or a huge support snap after it became new resistance, which it is now. So there's a real big zone here. Back here we had this 1220s range, this big old support, came back down during that ER, lost it, came back up, opened right on it, recovered, came back down, couldn't touch, and then finally when it had too much weakness, tapping that 100 EMA, that one lower high we're using here, it did snap that 1225 very, very heavily and just came down and set new lows. So this is going to be a pretty big squeeze level, I think. So if a round of shorts that piled in here that had positions on, they will get knocked out of the position if that recovers, and I think it's going to come up real quick, and that would be our hopefully our snap and run within a day or two to 16. So I think we're going to get that messing around here. It's going to snap. Hopefully you don't gap up and just go crazy up to the 14-15s and miss the whole move pre-market. That would suck, but I'm hoping she stays kind of level and we can plan for the breakout of 12. But it's only going to be about a 2 a day, and those are the levels going to work off for support resistance. So just want to break down OSTK a little bit here, talk about it, because this will be on the top 3. This is what we're going to be using for our support. Want to see it hold 11. We want to see it maybe test 1209 a couple times, pull back, create those higher lows for a nice wedge, and do a huge slam squeeze up through 1225. And then within that day or two of continuation, we could see it at that gap of 16 from the daily chart. So that's what I'm looking for. I hope that gives you a little bit of clarity on OSTK and what we're going to be looking for coming into Monday. So we'll see you guys bright and early in the morning.